Hi everybody, Leslie here and welcome to my craft lab. So today I'm taking part in the Crafting Together with All Brands Feels Like Spring monthly YouTube hop. So Crafting Together with All Brands is a Facebook group. I was invited to take part in the monthly video hop. That's what I'm here doing today. So if you are new here, hi, I'm Leslie. I go under the name Handmade in Windsor Lab, and if you want to know why, it's in the description of my YouTube channel. And there'll be lots of other people linked in the description who are also taking part in the video hop today. So hopefully you'll go and have a look at some of their videos. I know some of them, it might be their first ever video. So it's a nice way to share lots of new different YouTube channels as well. As usual, I've got carried away. The theme this month is Feels Like Spring, so I went and looked at all the spring flowers that are all coming up in and around Windsor. Then I went through my stamps and my dies and picked out all the spring flowers I could think of, and then I thought there's no way I want to colour all those in, so I decided we'd go with Pixie Burst. So I'm not that keen on colouring, despite owning 11 billion alcohol markers and paints and everything else. So I thought, let's do something with Pixie Burst. These aren't the only brand out there that do something like this. I know that Nouveau, so Tonic Nouveau range, there's something similar. You'll see how they work, and I thought what I'd do was I had an afternoon playing with these, just making a load of panels, and then I'll show you some of the cards that I've made. In fact, I'll show you all the cards, and I've almost used up every scrap of the panels that I created, so I did quite well. So I've done a nice hydrangea. Is that what they're called? No, they're not hydrangeas. Hyacinths. Another hyacinths. We've got daffodils coming up all over Windsor, and I've done lots of different techniques. And I always like to show at least 5 different ways that you can use something. So I've got a 5 ways series of videos. So these were all with stamped, but doing different things each time. And then I went into some die cutting. So we did some die cut flowers. All these had no colouring. And more die cut flowers. You can see I hadn't even intended to do purple. So the roses perhaps aren't quite so spring, but these are, I think they're like Michaelmas daisies. And then just to use up my scraps, I then went and got my punches out and literally used every scrap I had. I was going to throw my scraps away when I got to this point, and then I changed my mind and came up with a way to use even more of my scraps. So I ended up with nothing but teeny weeny little scraps, which have gone in my bin now. I'm going to show you really quickly how to use pixie sprays, different effects, and if you don't have anything like that in your stash, I'm also going to show you quickly how you can do, it's a similar effect, but it's with any sort of water reactive ink. So these ones were done in a similar way, but they were done with Distress and Distress Oxide inks. So you can see if you don't have pixie sprays, don't worry, you can still have a play with this technique with other types of any sort of water reactive ink really, and I'll show you a way to get a similar effect. Before I get started, I do just want to say please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, because I know from recent experience it's really hard now building up a YouTube channel. It's a free way of you to help all those little creators out there that are just trying to make free content for everybody. So please do that, not just for me but for everybody that you hop around and have a look at today. That would be amazing. So thank you for watching in advance, and let's get on with it. I thought I'd show you with 2 different sorts of cardstock. So this is just a sort of 200-ish GSM smooth white stamping card, and this one is definitely the Lime Tree Crafts, I think it's Coconut Crush watercolour card. You also get a different effect depending on what spray bottles you use. So I've got 2 spray bottles. This one gives a much finer mist, and this is an IKEA one, gives it's sort of bigger blobs that you get out of this one. So this is just an old IKEA, I think it was in their plant section. And then, believe it or not, I recycled one of these for this. So if you get these like oil sprays, they give a really good fine mist. So stick it through your dishwasher or lots of soapy water, and obviously make sure you've squirted all the oil out of it. And the other recycled spray bottles that I use that give a really good fine mist, This is the one that I've got my alcohol. So this is just like rubbing alcohol in here, my isopropyl alcohol. This one started out life as, you might be able to tell, this was Boots Glasses Cleaner. So they give a really good fine mist as well. So if you've got anything like these, save your spray bottles if they're reusable ones, and you can use those in your craft room. I'll do some purple because I've only done one of those. So all I do is literally shake, and hopefully you can see it really isn't very much. It's tiny, tiny amount. These bottles are going to last forever. And that's it. That's the tiniest bit gone on there. And this is where the magic happens with these burst powders. So that's with big blobs. And you can keep going. And because this is watercolour card, it will take it, and you can kind of angle your water. So there's quite a lot of water gone on that. And I thought I'd show you with the fine mist onto this one. So this is the stamping card. It's a much finer mist. So it doesn't move it in quite the same way. So it's definitely one of those things. Get out a load of panels of your paper and just have a play. But just be careful because it will spray bits of it off. So this is where I'm working on my glass mat, because there's bits gone everywhere. You can play with all your different papers. You can play with your different cards. And then just set them all aside to dry. Come back to them the next day, which is what I've done, which is why I wanted them done in advance. Because obviously this one is going to take a little while to dry. You can hurry it up, heat setting it. It's only water. It will move around though if you do that. So if I put this on here, you'll see, because it's quite saturated, it will move. This, because hopefully you can see, it was a much, much finer mist. There's no puddles, so you could easily heat set this because there's nothing, it's not going to move now. However, if you decide you want that to spread more, you can come back and add a bit more water. Now, this not being watercolour card, it's not going to move as easily as this did. So, yeah, just have a play. You know, it's only paper. You can always flip it over, use the other side, have another go once it's dry. But yeah, have a little play with these things. If you've got them in your stash already, or if there's something that you want to, you know, have a play with, they are great fun. Oh, and the other thing, always have some scraps to hand if you think you might use it. So I've got a scrap of watercolour card that's been used for some things. So anything that's left on your glass mat or your inking mat, you can always smoosh it up. And then you've got something matching. It'll be paler, but you've got something that you can use to match. And my lovely daughter has just returned my Sunburst. This is the one I was missing. I knew I had another one. So this is actually Pixie Sparkles rather than Pixie Burst. But I think that they work in pretty much the same way. So shall we have a go? Oh yeah, there's mica and things in here. Definitely more glittery. I think so that I don't move this around as much, I'm going to use my fine spray and do it from quite far away. Oh yeah, look at that. So that looked like nothing until I sprayed. And yeah, this is just some more of the watercolour scraps, so should we have a play on that one as well? This has got ink on the other side, but hopefully it won't come through to this side. Let's see what happens here. They are really magical. So yeah, it definitely spreads better on the watercolour if that's what the look you're going for. So if you've got watercolour cardstock, definitely have a play on your watercolour cardstock as well as on your stamping cardstock. It doesn't soak in as much, so it moves around more. So I'm going to sit those ones aside to dry. And this one's got glittery, sparkly bits in it. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. So the other technique that I wanted to show you before we started actually making the cards was if you've not got any of these Pixie Burst type things in your collection, but you've got any sort of ink that reacts with water, so Distress Ink, Distress Oxide Ink, or any other brand, these are the most obvious ones that react with water, you can kind of have a play and do something similar with these. So all I'm doing is using a big acrylic block. It doesn't need to be this big, you can use a smaller one, and popping some ink onto it, just random, and then give that a spray. Make sure it's the one that's got water in it. Just give that a spray, just a mist, and then, oh, I'm dripping. Smoosh that down. Again, this will work on watercolour card, it will still work on stamping card, it just, oh, made a mess. Doesn't soak in so easily. And I'd leave it there just for a moment or two. Have a little wipe up. This is just so it's got time to smoosh and sink into the card. If you're using watercolour, you don't need to cardstock. You don't need to leave it for as long. And then you get, you know, something like that going on using your Distress inks as well. So that's with Distress Oxide. That was in Squeezed Lemonade and Mustard Seed. And I don't have all the Distress inks, so I've pulled out, what have I got? I've got Squeezed Lemonade and Scattered Straw this time. And again, this is just stamping card. And same thing. Just bung some on there. And I'm just going with different colours just to give a bit of variation. But you can do it with one colour, you can do it with 3 colours. So there you go. Depends how you mix it. You could go in there with a brush and swirl them together. But you can get, it's not the same effect, but it's not, you know, it's not completely dissimilar. And I'll use some of these as well in the cards so you can see the different sort of effect. Because I've got beautiful pink hyacinths flowering on my doorstep. I'll pop a picture in actually. So that was my inspiration. This came with Simply Cards and Papercraft 226. I thought these were like cherry blossoms. So these are a Honeydew Crafts one. This is an absolutely ancient stamp set. This one, does anybody remember when Lakeland in the UK did craft stuff? And then it was actually this stamp set, which is, this is a magazine set as well. This came with Making Cards magazine, which I don't even think exists anymore. It actually came on this stamp set, and I was looking for the hyacinths. And it was actually the smooshy ink pattern in the background that gave me the idea to do this today. So I was just looking for spring stamps, and that was where my thoughts took me. So that's why we're doing that today. So again, I've got hyacinth in there. And I've also pulled this stamp set out. And this has got these lovely daffodils in it. And this is actually 2 stamp sets. These are Elusive Images ones from 2005, which means they're getting on for 20 years old. How old does that make me feel? Because my daughter was born in 2005. So yes, my oldest daughter, I've got 2. So I thought we'd use the daffodils out of this set. Any florals, any sort, is going to work really well with this technique. Now, I'd recommend using a stamping platform because a lot of your paper's likely to have warped. So all we're going to do is do some stamping over the top. And what I'm going to do is position the bits of my stamp that I want on the bits that I like the look of for the pattern. And I'm just going to go with VersaFine just so I can see it. And I always get the best results, especially small fine line type images when I use VersaFine. So now my intention is just to fussy cut out the top part, just really simply around the leaves. And then the bottom part, I'm actually going to stamp it on one of my green and brown panels. And the nice thing is you can kind of pick and choose which bits you use. So I picked a bit that's darker for the centres and then it'll spread out and no shading required. So hopefully you can see I'm going to get some really nice variation across those. And this is just a really quick fix if you've got one of these unmounted rubber stamps. I am literally just using glue stick and making sure that I clean it off straight away, which is why I left the yellow for last. So because it's a water-soluble glue, this is all you need to do. Just come in with a bit of water, and now there's next to no residue left anywhere. And if you've got any residue left that you want rid of, just use a little bit of alcohol. So this is where my handy dandy alcohol spray bottle comes in. I'll just give it another little wipe over. Any gluey residue that was left on there is straight off. So I've got all this lot to go and start fussy cutting tonight. So I will probably take some of these inside with me because for those of you who are new here and don't know, my craft room is actually in my converted garage, or part of my garage where I converted myself. So it gets quite cold out here and I can't have my fan heater on while I'm filming too much or else you can hear it. I tend to take things inside so that I can sit in the warm, like while I'm watching TV in the evening. So we might have to do some plant pots for these, which I've forgotten to stamp, but we can come back and do that later. So my idea will be I'll fussy cut the top out and then we will layer that over the top there, and then we've got our two colours. So I didn't need to be too careful fussy cutting that out because the colour bleeds over the edge anyway, and I've left at the bottom where the leaves go, so I know exactly where that needs to sit. I can either lift this up on foam tape or stick it flat. That took no time whatsoever to colour because it was no time really to stamp it. So the only thing that's taken any amount of time is fussy cutting it out, which really didn't take that long because I've not been that careful. And there you go, we've got one embellishment ready to go for a card. I've got those ready to make into cards. I've still got a load of panels left. So I've got a couple that I've actually stamped on left, that I might come back and fussy cut later. So I've got a couple of those. I might do those. And then where I had big bits left, I've got a, you know, I've got a dish full of scraps, but where I've got big bits left, I saved anything that had reasonable amount left. And then of course I've got all these panels that I've not actually used yet. Oh, there's the one that I'd got the plant pots out of. So these were the ones that I sprayed on camera for you. So there's the purple two that I did. They're all nice and dry now. So I've still got all these. So what I went and did was, I'm fed up of fussy cutting. So I went and found some of my layered dies. And of course I've got lots of lovely yellows left. So this is an Altenew layered daffodil that I got in a magazine years ago. And it's got the leaves and the daffodil. So I thought we'll do that one. These are an Altenew one as well, the like the roses. These are Altenew layered rose. Again, these came in a magazine. I've got Altenew daisy. They might be a bit big. They might work on my purple ones I've got. And this may be a bit big. We'll see. We'll see what I use. I thought with all these scraps, rather than just sticking them in my bits box, I'm going to go through and die cut a load of these ones out. So from all those scraps, all I've got left is this one that's got a little bit on it that I've used on some of the daffodils, and this little bit of purple, which was already a piece of scrap that I used to pick up some ink. And I've got a few more purple bits. Could I be more frugal and get some more bits out of those? Yeah, probably. But there comes a point where you've got to let go of your scraps. I've got 3 daffodils. I've got a bunch of roses and leaves. They're all still stuck to the dies. So that's out the pinks. I've got this yellow rose, and then I've got a pile of purpley daisies and leaves. So yeah, I've just got an assembly job. So I'm going to go and basically kind of make toppers, and in the same way that I've got a tray with all these ready just to stick together and make up into cards, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to do it on camera. You don't want to watch that. And take these away, stick them all together, and then we can come back and make all the cards. So another little progress update. This is all the things I've made from the panels that I stamped on. So here's the daffodil, and I'm hoping that you can see with the shadow, the nice dimension. I haven't actually put any foam squares or anything in there. All I did was just shape my card a little bit and stick some glue under it. So the leaves are actually stuck completely flat, but because it's reasonably heavyweight cardstock, there's still a tiny bit of dimension of the leaves. So it was literally just making my own decoupage. So I stamped it on 4 different colours of panels and then cut out 4 layers. So that's what the back layer is, just cut out with a die, and then 3 layers on top. So I think that's come out really, really well. And it looks even better. There's some of the mica in the background, so the background's just got a nice shimmer to it, which I don't think the camera's picking up brilliantly. So these two were from the same 4 panels and 4 sets of stamping. Did exactly the same thing with this one. There are 4 layers stuck on here, and it has got just a nice amount of subtle dimension, but it wouldn't make your card too bulky. So for UK Post, most of it is thickness, whether you need a large stamp or not. And it's still pretty flat, but it still looks really quite realistic. And then these two these have only got 2 layers on. So I had my ink smooshed panels that were just done with Distress Oxides. And that's what these two, this is literally from 2 panels. So I didn't cut out the green on these ones. I just coloured. So I used a single Spectrum Noir tri-blend. This is the Alpine Green blend. And I just did some very, very fast colouring on the leaves on both of these. and then I just cut out the one top layer, so there isn't two layers. If I'd had another layer, I could have done another layer on top. And I just did the same thing. There's no foam tape. I just shaped it slightly and only put glue like on the center part. So hopefully you can see again, there's still a little bit of dimension on these ones. So this was my original idea to do some hyacinths. I think that's come out really well. And you can see on the back, I've just stuck it together. So then there's the three little hyacinths, so the same idea, but I put the three on one card, obviously. And the only, like I said, I think this is a reject. This was the only one that I didn't like how it came out, so I think that may go in my bin. I did 3 sets of the honeydew cherry blossom, so I think, you know, a nice cluster of 3 with a nice greeting with some leaves, and I've got a purple and 2 pink sets. That's all the stamped panels. So from those stamp panels, I think I've got 9 card toppers, and then this was what was left that I used for all my die cutting. So I've got certainly enough, and these I think came out really, really well, really pretty. These are the, I think they're called rose flurries, the ones from Altenew, but they've got loads of layering rose type things. So there's that one, and this is an Altenew magazine freebie one. So that was mainly from the ink smooshed panels that I had left. So that's a 3-layer rose. Some of these are 5 layers. So if I show you on the biggest one, how cool that came out. I think it looks even better in real life than it does on camera. You can't always get these things to show up. But even the leaves have come out really cute on those. And they're just 2 layers. So I think that's 1 card, that's 2 cards. I managed to get 4 large daisies from my purple bits that I had. And I put the darker underneath and the lighter one that I had on top, so that they're a bit like, is it a Michaelmas daisy, that are sort of white with purples. And then the orange was the bits that I had left from doing my daffodils. So I've managed to get 3 daffodils out of the orange and yellow bits of panels that I had left. And they're 4 layers as well. So I think they've come out. And every single one of them, obviously, with this technique is completely unique. I didn't need to do any ink blending. All I needed to do was cut them out, and I put double-sided tape behind. So they were really quick to stick together. I forgot to do it with these, and I did glue these, but stick some double-sided tape on the back before you start. And yeah, so I managed to get the leaves from my sort of 2 or 3 green panels that I had. So I've got different shades of leaves that I can use with these. So I've got what, 1, 2, 3, maybe 2, I don't know. If I put 2 of these on a card with a greeting and some leaves, I can certainly get 2 cards out of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cards, maybe 7. So I've got 9 cards from my stamp panels, maybe 7 from these. Let's go for 6. So that would be 15 cards. But in terms of time, making all those Pixie Burst backgrounds probably took me less than half an hour for all of them. After saying I was okay with having some scraps, I'm really not. So I just gone and pulled out all of my sort of flowery punches. I'm just going to go through and punch some flowers out of all these scraps, and then they will, I promise, go in my bin. So I've ended up with 4 little trays of punched out flowers, and ones that I could use as leaves that have got more green tones in them. So I've got absolutely tons of purple, and I've got loads of orange and yellows. And I've got a couple of card ideas, but I think I will do the same thing. Take them in a tray in front of the TV and stick some like layered flowers together. So when I'm going to batch make, I've got all my toppers ready. I've got all my cards folded ready. I then think of a couple of designs. So this is one that I've had in mind. I made this card years and years and years and years ago. And this was sort of the idea. I thought I'm going to go black and white, and then the florals in all the lovely bright colours will all stand out really nice. So this was my idea. And they won't all be like that, but gives you an idea where we're headed. So I thought, for speed, one of the things I would do would be just go through my embossing folders and emboss a load of background panels, which I've already done. So I used just a selection of ones. This is Crafter's Companion French Chic. That came with Creative Stamping Magazine. I've got an old Anna Griffin Cuttlebug one, Cherry Blossom, another Anna Griffin Cuttlebug one, that's Fluted Damask. This is a swirly one that is one of the oldest ones I have in my stash, and I have no idea what it is. This must be 20 years old. This is Tranquil Tulips that came on a magazine with some tulip dies and stamps, I think not that long ago, maybe a year or so ago, that one. And this is a old Hobbycraft one. This is Floral Lace from Hobbycraft. And I did the same with a few different sort of frames or background dies. So this is one that came from the works. That's the old to new, it's called Watercolour Stripes if I remember rightly. That's the one that I showed you on that card. And then I think these are tonic frames, I'm not 100% certain. Things that I could pre-cut, have some layers ready to go. So I've got a few of those in different colours ready to go. I've got my embossed background panels ready to go in different colours. And then you can see across the top here, I've stamped some Happy Mother's Day and some birthday ones. This is from a Tailored Expressions stamp set that stamps loads of greetings all in one go, and then you die cut them all in one go. So I just did a quick round of those, and I think this Happy Mother's Day one is Wiry Words from, I think it's from Craft Stash. So I think it's their creative brand, which is one of the Craft Stash brands. I'm all ready to go, and it's just really an assembly job and deciding on the layout with all the different flowers. cards here, and it's quite hard to show some of them really well on camera. I will put loads of close-up photos so you can see the dimension and things. I'll put those all on my blog. So my blog is at www.handmadeinwindsor.co.uk/blog, or you can just go to handmadeinwindsor.co.uk and there's a little link in the top corner for my blog. I'll put that in the description as well. So if you want to see more close-up photos so you can see these in more detail, they'll all be on there. Hopefully you enjoy hopping around and having a look at everybody else's videos. I imagine some aren't quite as long as mine, so sorry about that, but I had so much that I wanted to squeeze in to show you how I used up all those panels that I thought it was worth at least showing you in brief what I did with all of them. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it and hope you'll visit me again sometime. Bye for now.